tomorrow. It's free. Just look for Autoline After Hours at the iTunes store. Don't forget, too, that you can get all our programs via Stitcher on your smartphone or BlackBerry. And here's a chance to win $100 if you go to Stitcher.com/Autoline. And it'll walk you through some stuff, and the promotion code is Autoline. You can get the app to do that at the iTunes store or at the Android store. And remember, you can win $100 just by entering this thing. And we're going to get started here in a couple of minutes.
John, should we practice our UAW handshake? Here, wait.
Yeah, I'll reach for your wallet and you reach for mine.
Yeah, no, here. Now remember, we have to look at the camera. It's all good. It's all good. We love each other. It's going to be a wonderful thing.
Well, we're going to be talking about that.
We're going to work together. We're going to get paid more, and they're going to make money. It's all good. Somebody sent me, I don't remember Jim Carrey doing this, but he did a character. Now I'm forgetting the guy's name. Grandpa Jack.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I didn't remember it at all, but it was from that show that Carrey was on ABC, the comedy show before he got big.
Yeah.
Grandpa Jack, and he said, and this reader said, watch this closely. Doesn't he remind you of Bob King? And I watched it. It was hilarious. Ben, Google Jim Carrey as Grandpa Jack.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
But I love that. No, we're missing the shirts though.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
the red shirts.
we need the polo shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chrysler had maroon, GM had black.
I thought
Who was light blue?
light blue. Well, I know Dan
Ford.
Ackerson had a light blue.
Well, no, that was just his shirt that he had. The other GM
the
guys
other
had
GM
black.
did have black. Right?
Yeah, and so Ford is what? Is Ford tomorrow or something?
For tomorrow, yeah.
So they'll have different polo shirts.
Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone, passion for excellence. Chevrolet, the all-new Chevrolet Cruze. Get used to more. And by Hyundai. Experience the 2011 Hyundai Sonata today at HyundaiSonata.com.
Thanks for joining us again here, folks, for Autoline After Hours, and it is After Hours. Work is done with. We do this just for pleasure, and joining me as always is my co-host, the Autoextremist, Peter. Peter, welcome back, sir.
John, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Fresh off our UAW handshake.
Well, yeah, you were writing about that. You don't seem to buy into the lovey-dovey love fest that they got going on.
No, because Bob King's track record and his pronouncements all along he's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, you know. Depending on where you are, he's like the friend of corporate America, and we're in this together. But if you catch him in off moments, it's like, we're going to get as much of this stuff back as we can. So I just, I want everyone to remember that when things start going badly.
Well, you had a good point in your column in that, he's all lovey-dovey with Chrysler and then all lovey-dovey with GM. And then he's been telling everybody that, Alan Mulally
makes too much. Let's not forget that they can't strike GM.
Right, but it was more than just saying Alan Mulally is paid too much. He's saying it's outrageous, it's immoral.
Yeah. It just went off the reservation totally about it. And I just thought it was really uncalled for. I mean, because frankly, if it wasn't for Alan and rallying his team, UAW wouldn't have Ford to worry about.
Well, think about this a minute. It took a lot of money for Ford to pry Alan Mulally out of Boeing.
Yeah.
He told him to go away several times, and they just kept upping the ante. I don't know what it got to, $27, $28 million. Well, the UAW hit the roof over that. Imagine if Ford had said, you know, the union's right. We shouldn't pay this man that much money, and they would have never got him, and where would they be today?
Yeah, no one knows, but I just, you know, I'm very skeptical, let's put it that way.
Skeptical about what?
About Bob King's intentions. And let's not forget, they can't sue or strike GM or Chrysler.
Right.
Because it's part of the bankruptcy agreement. And he said, oh, well, Ford's not our target. We don't have targets. Right. We'll see about that.
Right. We will.
Now, how about Sergio?
Oh, Sergio announced his management team.
Yeah, well, this is after he stressed, oh, I'm not going to mess with, I'm not going to, he used the word screw, I'm not going to screw with the Americanness of Chrysler. Okay, so he announces the new management team of the new unified company, and it's all his cronies, right?
That's right. Yeah, we were going through the list, and I didn't see
Dan Knott's not there. And
no, none of the Chrysler executives, it looks, made it to any position of prominence. Maybe one exception, Mike Manley.
Yeah, one.
Running Jeep. Looks like he's got Asian operations for the whole shebang, the Fiat Chrysler thing. So
okay, well.
Mike Manley might be the one, and you know, I don't have the entire full list in front of me here. Maybe there's one other there, but all the important positions were filled by existing Fiat executives.
Yeah, and you know, and
does that surprise you though? That doesn't really surprise me.
I mean, but and they also read between the lines. Sergio still has something like 50 direct reports. Really? Okay. I mean, you know, I mean, if you're running a company, I wouldn't want 50 direct reports. I wouldn't want to know. I mean, just come on. That's just a control freak of gargantuan proportions.
Oh, I'm surprised the board lets him do that because, you know, as I've said before, I've written about this, you know, if, God forbid, he steps off the curb and gets hit by a bus, then what? By a Vespa.
Yeah, then what?
Then what? Because
I mean, the whole thing is predicated on him being there, and then,
exactly.
You know, all the command and control centers a certain way, and then if he just decides not to show up to work one day, yeah, it's chaos.
They're in trouble.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
So like I said, I'm surprised the board lets that happen. And he's clearly got great sway over what the board wants.
Yeah. Well, I keep hearing they're going to run the unified company in Auburn Hills. Has Italy been told that, the government and the people? I don't think so.
That's right. Well, hey, we've got a couple of great guests coming on tonight's show. We've got Jay Barron from the Center for Automotive Research. We've got Mark Perry, who's heading up product development with Nissan here in the Americas. And why don't we get Jay to come up right now?
Okay.
Jay, come on up. Go. Yeah. Bravo, bravo.
Thank you very much. Feel like I'm coming into your living room?
Yeah, well, that's.
Well, no, it's
that's
their
the
basement.
Feeling. Yeah. Here, Andrew will put a microphone on.
Notice the official Detroit Tigers shirt, folks.
Yeah, so everybody
Lest you forget, lest you forget where this show's coming from.
I think they lost again today.
Did they really?
Really? That's 2 in a row.
Yeah.
That's not good.
So Jay, next week, big week for Center for Automotive Research. You guys put on this must be the biggest automotive conference in the world.
Well, certainly in North America, and probably the best one in the world. How's that?
Oh, don't tell Keith Crane that.
Yeah.
Oh boy, we've got our Automotive News World Congress.
We have a lot of automotive news participation at Traverse City. So,
Yeah, I know you do. I'm just kidding.
we work pretty well with them.
So what's the big expectations out of this conference?
Well, we're excited. We got. You know, the general theme is prosperity amid uncertainty, and it seems like in this industry there's uncertainty every year.
But there is prosperity. I mean, we've seen all week long all the car companies reporting billions and billions in profits.
That's right, and so there's some good news.
Right.
There clearly is some degree of recovery from the recession, from depressed sales, and so there's some money coming in, and there's some rebounding. But the question is, where are we going, and what is the uncertainty that we're facing? So
you guys do a lot of research. Where do you think it's going?
We have done recently a fair amount of research on the whole issue of fuel economy.
And the real cost of these new standards.
That's right. There clearly is a lot of debate over the cost, and because it's an area of great uncertainty. And there's a lot of very smart people coming up with estimates and then projecting this. How do you project inventions and refinements over the next 15 years? That's pretty hard to do. And yet we're out of Washington, we're setting mandates.
Easy. I see a big breakthrough coming in 2018.
And what technology? No, I'm not going to invest in it either.
Not facetious, obviously. I mean, how do you forecast a breakthrough in technology?
Yeah, right. So that is a major piece of this concern. We just did a study. It's on our website, and it's called the Automotive Industry in 2025. And we're looking at the effect of mandates from Washington on fuel economy and on safety technologies, or safety mandates. Those are the two major ones that would come out of Washington. So we did a study looking at cost, and we used some industry data to project those costs and then try to estimate what the segmentation of the market would look like. And therefore, clearly it's going to be, the higher the fuel, the higher the CAFE requirement, the more electrified the vehicle's got to become. Just no way around that. We think there's constraints with diesel power, and that's only going to go so far. And the only alternative technology really, you can only go so far with advanced internal combustion engines. We see them sort of petering out at around 40, maybe 45 miles per gallon with the technologies before it becomes too expensive to keep on going. And then, so you got to start shifting over to hybrids and plug-ins and electric vehicles. So,
and what about lightweight materials? Isn't that part of it?
I'm glad you asked that question. You know, the government, the feds, have put a fair amount of money into research. And in fact, we have a speaker at Traverse City on Monday, Dr. Jurg Pullman with BMW, and he's directing this facility that BMW partnered with out in Washington.
Right, the carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber. And I haven't been there yet, but clearly it's a wonderful material, but it's expensive. You know, there's nothing like the price of steel at 40, 50 cents a pound. Aluminum might be a couple bucks a pound, and then you start getting into magnesium and carbon fiber, and now you're talking 5, 10, 15 bucks a pound. Great materials, great lightweighting opportunity, but expensive. And you can make great cars that are safe, they're crash-worthy with those materials, but expensive. And so that kind of raises that debate about how much of those costs are going to come down over the next 5 to 10 years. There's a lot of the EPA and NHTSA, who are setting these CAFE standards, in fact, there's a tentative agreement in the works right now, and tomorrow the president and some of the auto companies will be announcing the agreed upon CAFE direction.
54.5 miles per gallon.
That's right.
Which is down 2 from what they were.
That is down from the top. They initially started at 62.
And then it was 56 something.
Yeah.
Yeah, 56.2.
But the real crux is there's all these exceptions.
Trucks.
Exceptions for trucks.
Well, trucks have to improve at a slower rate.
At a slower rate.
Until what, 2020, 21, something like that. Then they accelerate up to cars.
That's right. Maybe. Because in 2021,
be reevaluated.
They have a midterm review.
Right.
So that was introduced, the midterm review. So it is not a firm mandate through 2025. So there's the midterm review, which is an opportunity to reassess. We think that's a wonderful idea because of the inability to project technology effectiveness and costs 10 years out. So there's a midterm review. Trucks do have to achieve fuel economy at a slower rate than cars. Then there's other credits. There's air conditioning credits. If you have the appropriate air conditioning, you get some MPG credit for that. If you have hybrid...
This is air conditioning that has less CO2 damaging or causing...
Things like...
I mean, what am I trying to say?
They're environmentally friendly AC systems. And
there you go. Thank you. I can't speak.
Well, exactly how you define them, I don't think even that terminology is established yet. And so there's some uncertainty there. But there are credits for that. There's credits for our hybrid trucks, and there's credits for other things. So these credits are important because that means that a lot of vehicles don't really have to meet this, what you said, 54.5.
54.5.
Yeah, yeah.
It was 56 point something.
0.2.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So,
but the 5 automakers have come out and said we're on board with this. We're okay. The Detroit 3 plus Honda and Hyundai have said no problem.
So what's the number? What's the consumer? What's the extra cash consumer's going to have to come up with?
Well, we have to consult our study for that answer, which is on our website.
Oh, okay.
But we think it's, we did not do that analysis specific to this, and frankly, we have not been briefed on the details, so there's analysis to be done to answer your question accurately. But we're talking, in our opinion, we're talking a few $1,000s. We're not a few hundred, but a few $1,000s to achieve that. The flip side, of course, is fuel savings for the life of the vehicle. How much fuel savings, and I mean, even that's somewhat up for debate, is the savings in fuel.
So that means an entry-level car now, which would be, what's the Nissan entry-level car again?
About $11,000 for a Versa. That's base.
But that's the Flintstone edition. What's the real edition?
It's got a radio.
That's the open floor version? No. So, you know, so all of a sudden that goes up to like 13, 14.
And maybe even a little bit more than that.
Like 15 will be the cheapest car you can buy that runs under its own power.
Yeah. So on the average across the industry. So.
And then I would assume the luxury car makers will have to go for the carbon fiber bit to take the weight out.
Clearly, that's where we think the carbon fiber is headed, as well as even more aluminum components in the vehicle.
Well, as soon as BMW is pretty forward thinking with that deal in Washington.
Well, they don't sell their cars for $11,000 either.
Yeah, but as soon as I saw it, I said, oh, I see what they're doing.
Yeah.
But here's the thing too, Jay, is we're not looking at life cycle energy usage.
No.
And so, yeah, we can go with carbon fiber, which is unrecyclable. We can go with aluminum that is much more energy intensive in making and recycling than steel.
Right.
And, you know, I'm not sure that this is really moving the country ahead. And by my calculations too, pass cars and light trucks account for about 40% of all the oil that we consume. What about the other 60%?
Yeah.
It isn't being regulated at all. As a country, how do we reduce our dependence on oil when we're ignoring 60% of the problem?
Right.
Plus,
and then introducing technologies that might be, on a life cycle basis, more energy intensive.
That's right. They're putting a lot of pressure on the auto industry to solve a problem that is not caused by the auto industry.
Plus, it's back asswards. I mean, John, I think you agree. I don't buy cafe in the least. I think it's the worst way to go about this. I think if gasoline was $5 a gallon, you let the market decide what these vehicles look like.
I don't like Washington picking the technologies, telling us what to develop to address a problem that is not primarily caused by the auto industry.
But if you want to raise the price of gasoline and let people make their choices based on that, to me it's much better.
I've asked the question several times, because that clearly is what they've done more of in Europe than they do over here, when they're paying $8 a gallon for gas. Why don't we do that over here? And
well, it's because legislature, our form of government, they like to tell people what to do. It's their reason for being, unfortunately. That's not what our founding fathers wanted to do, but that's what it's evolved to. You have people who wouldn't be employable anywhere else. Think about it. I used to play that game in the ad biz. What would that client be doing if he wasn't in that job? And I'll never forget the one guy, I'll never forget him, and we all agreed he'd be running a hardware store somewhere, because that's pretty much, he hit the wall there. But, you know, what else would these guys do? Yeah. Think about, you know, are there any real statesman-like legislators? No. They're all in it to perpetuate their gig.
One of the problems I have with this field of CAFE and fuel economy and technology forecasting and such is most of the data, most of the analysis, most of the projections, eventually the mandates, are all made by people that have never been in a factory. These guys don't know the auto industry. They don't make cars in volume.
And even more to the point, I think, don't understand the retail end of the business.
No, they don't.
Because, and I don't mean to keep beating this point, but I mean, if people really wanted fuel-efficient cars, we'd all be driving hybrids, and yet we know they're 2.5% of the U.S. market.
Right.
So it's one thing to mandate all this technology, but how do you get people to buy it?
I want to buy it. Even with higher gas prices right now, $1,500, $2,000 premium, people don't want to pay that for a hybrid today.
I mean, you talked earlier about credits for hybrid trucks. We got hybrid trucks. They can't give them away.
Right.
I mean, the sales are a joke.
Right.
A total joke.
Right. Well, so our study that we did with our chief economist, Sean McElroy, who looked at the elasticity of demand and pricing, if you start raising these prices too high, people are going to stop buying these vehicles. The alternative is to keep your current vehicles longer. These cars we have today are fantastic vehicles. They'll last a long time, and with a little bit more maintenance, can last even longer.
The average is 10 years right now,
well,
just about.
There's no doubt in my mind that you can make it 20 years if you were motivated to do so.
Look, we just did a documentary on Cuba. Those cars are 50 and 60 years old.
Yeah, right, and running pretty well. So there are alternatives to paying more money for a car if you think the car is not worth the money they're asking for. So it's very price sensitive. So the industry would contract if you price these vehicles too expensive relative to the price of gasoline.
Hey, we got to take a quick break here, and I want to ask you a question about diesels when we come back from that. But Ben, let's thank our friends at Bridgestone. Bridgestone is featuring its third generation of run-flat tires with groundbreaking new technology. Current run-flat tires can offer peace of mind for consumers, but the added mass and the stiffer sidewalls can compromise ride comfort and fuel efficiency. The new third generation Bridgestone run-flat tires reduce heat and improve performance and ride comfort. Whether you're a program manager in the industry or just looking for a set for your personal car, check it out at bridgestonetire.com. You said earlier, Jay, that diesels had limitations on them. What are those limitations?
Well, frankly, we think diesels are a wonderful technology. The advanced clean diesels that have been primarily developed in Europe by European auto companies and suppliers, and we're going to see more of those. But the emissions issue around the particulate matter and such is probably going to be in the emission mandates that come out of Washington clearly are going to constrain their degree of usage. Then there's the fuel price issue and the availability of diesel fuel. So in order, when you look at what Europe did, they made their cars smaller, and the price of diesel fuel was more readily available, and it was priced more competitively. So they sort of implicitly incentivized that technology over there. So it's a wonderful engine. We're starting to see a slow growth. It's somewhere around 7 or 8% of the market. It might go up another 1 to 2% or something, but we just don't see it really taking off without government motivation around that technology.
BMW's told me they think by 2020, 50% of all the vehicles they sell in the U.S. market will be diesel.
Well, that would make us look a lot like Europe. They're around 50%, 50, right. 55%.
Now that's BMW, and I think the Germans have the technology, and I think their customers are probably more open to it. We'll see if they get there.
That 335D is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is really impressive. I had a luxury of the benefit of a ride in a nice 7 Series BMW with a diesel engine. You had no idea it was a diesel engine. And
very quiet.
Very quiet, no vibration, nothing.
So, about next week's conference, how many tiki bars are there going to be at the
Well, the important question.
Is it true that in between speeches that everyone has to do a shot? I'm just kidding.
It's
a very serious and sober conference.
Popular belief. We do have fun, but we don't have any tiki bars.
Okay.
Well, actually, but you got the big yellow tent, and that's what everybody really loves about the conference. Is at the end of the day, they have a big tent out back, and there's a cocktail hour, and
every
night. The networking there is awesome.
That is the feedback every year, is that it's a wonderful event because of the networking. We do go into the yellow tent, was it Monday night, Tuesday night, and Wednesday night, so it's 3 evenings. And we also have social hour Sunday night kicking things off as well. So there's really 4 social gatherings and networking opportunities. Come Thursday afternoon, without the yellow tent, I start looking for the wine bottles because I'm getting a little shaky having to wean myself. But it really is a very nice event. And there's a lot of side events beside the yellow tent that are going on, several a day. In fact, we try to manage those so they don't compete with our own events. But there's a lot of social, interactive activity that goes on. So we kick off on Monday. Traditionally, this has been the story this is the 46th year of Management Briefing.
46 years, that's awesome. That's unreal.
Yeah.
No other automotive conference has lasted that long.
Well, can't say that I don't know that for sure, but clearly not many, if there are any. And it actually was started by my mentor when I was at the University of Michigan, was Don Smith, was the originator, the founder. who brought Dave Cole into it a few years later. But Don, it was funny, Don's now retired, but Don was interviewed last year and asked, why did you start the conference and why did you come to Traverse City? Because it's always been in Traverse City. And Don says, well, to be perfectly honest with you, I just had a few of my professor friends from the university, and we're just looking for a fun place to go.
Look, that's as good a reason as any.
And it started at the Park Place, and they eventually moved it over to the Grand Traverse Resort, which is where it's been for a number of years. So, and Don was a manufacturing guy, tool and die, and spent a lot of time in the assembly plants. And so when being my mentor brought me into that field. And so we continue to kick off the conference with manufacturing. It has been ever since I've been associated with it, which has been over 20 years, with world-class manufacturing on Monday. So we will kick off with Don Jackson from Volkswagen. He runs the manufacturing facility in Chattanooga. And Don has been there before. He used to work for Toyota. In fact, I had lunch with Don about a month ago down in Chattanooga. And Don's comment was, this is down in Chattanooga with the Volkswagen plant. He said, this is my 4th launch. I don't have any more in me. But if you've gone through a product launch, you realize the stress that these individuals go through for such a long time. And that is a wonderful facility down there. So a lot of people up here are curious about what Volkswagen is doing. And as you mentioned earlier, the diesel engines coming over from Europe, that they're doing that.
In fact, I'm told that plant's tooled to go as high as 80% diesel.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's $1 billion complex around that site. So, and Chattanooga, the community, the state of Tennessee has invested a lot in that. So there's a lot of visibility. We haven't had Volkswagen at our conference for several years. We don't get a lot of. Well, we did have Tom Wolfman, I believe, a year or two ago. But in terms of their manufacturing people, it's difficult to get them to Traverse City. But now they have a plant in the U.S. They have a reason to be there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's time we got to bring our other guest up here on the show. Mark, come on up. We got Mark Perry from Nissan here who's going to join us. And Andrew, if you can get a microphone on him. Now, Mark, you got to tell us what your title is. Because wait till the microphone's on, because I thought you were just handling LEAF, but looks to me like they gave you a whole lot more duties there at Nissan.
Yeah, I do quite a bit. So it's, yeah, LEAF has been a time vampire for the last 2 or 3 years for sure. That's the focus. But small cars, all the small car platforms, even the sports cars.
So, and what's your exact title then?
Director of Product Planning.
Okay.
Just makes it simple.
Yeah, okay.
Just makes it simple.
Cool. So, welcome to Autoline After Hours.
Well, thanks. Appreciate being here.
So you heard what we were talking about earlier on, I saw you smile when Jay said, oh yeah, only electrification is going to get us to these fuel economy numbers. You must see it that way too.
It's got to be part of the mix. I think what he said though too was all the technologies have to kind of come along. I joke there's not a silver bullet, there's silver buckshot, because really you got to do it all. You got to do it. You got to look at everything: lightweight materials, aerodynamics, powertrains, transmissions, electrification, of course,
and cost.
Well, then there's cost.
You got to look at the functionality of these vehicles,
Yeah.
and you're going to have different technologies based on the functionality of different types of vehicles. There'll be more parsing. Specialty, don't want to call them niche really, but you know, whether it's gasoline engines or diesel engines or electrification, and then various degrees of each of those, you would think that you will match those technology mixes to the use of those vehicles more than we have in the past.
And the most crucial cocktail for a vehicle will be the full-size pickups. What do they focus on and come up with to make those pickups still function as pickups, yet meet some obscure target?
And be affordable to contractors, you know, who need a simple truck. You know, they don't need a King Ranch F-150.
It's not, I don't think it's going to be affordable. I think everything's going to cost more. I really believe that.
Oh, no question about it.
I mean, and you know, contractors, they pay more for that, then they have to up their rates, and then everything we pay for is going to be more expensive. So.
Peter, it's a cloudy day. Come on.
Hey, in Washington, it's always sunny. Somebody's going to pay for it out there somewhere. No, I mean, you know, I remember distinctly in the early 70s when the onset of unleaded fuel and the catalytic converter and 165 horsepower Camaro Z28s and all of that. You know, I thought it was doomsday.
It was doomsday.
It was doomsday for several years.
It was a horrible decade.
As manifested in the Mustang II.
Oh. The King Cobra Mustang too, the worst of them all.
But you know, things change, technology change, and when you listen to the California faction and all this, they're all blue sky. Well, we'll figure it out. We're going to hang this target on there and we'll figure it out. That might be true, but it is going to be more costly. And I have all the confidence in, you know, we have some of the most talented, gifted people of any businesses in the involved in the auto industry, not just in Detroit. Nissan, Toyota USA, Hyundai USA, all these companies, they have tremendous talent, but it's going to be costly. And I don't think anyone in Washington and California has any idea about that. They just think, hey, we'll hang this number, they'll figure it out. And then they'll amortize the costs and it'll only cost like 50 cents more. We all win. Well, it's not that simple. Yeah.
What do you make, Mark, of the 56 or 54.5 mile per gallon CAFE that's supposedly going to be announced tomorrow?
I mean, it's a tough objective. There's no question. It's going to take a lot of work. The truck number is a stout one. It's a stout part of that. But passenger car, I think we see a path there.
Now, Nissan didn't come out and bless this yet, did it?
We have been supportive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have been supportive.
So let's talk about the LEAF. Bring us up to speed. What's the latest here? Are you building them fast enough, or has the earthquake really put a crimp in that? What's the latest? Really
fortunate for us. I mean, the earthquake was a disruption, but we lost only about 3 weeks worth of production, so it wasn't so bad. I mean, for the customers who were waiting, it was like
it's excruciating.
Excruciating, painful. But we got through that. The plant's back at full production now. Globally, we passed 10,000 sales, so that was kind of the first.
Where are they all going? Because
we're over 4,500 here in the United States, and we're clicking right along now. So it's more. It hasn't been a demand issue; it's been a supply issue.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Do you let them go any place, or do you target regions of the country to?
Regions of the country? Yeah, we just announced last week at Plug-in that we're opening up basically the Southeast. So up to this point, we were on sale in essentially 7 states, and we had hit 4,500 in 7 states. But now opening up the Southeast, you know, places like Atlanta, I mean, they have a $4,000 state tax credit, HOV lane access. Commuters pay $1 a mile to go on their toll roads.
Wow.
EVs are free. So it's going to go. Chicago, $4,000 incentive in Chicago. I mean, we're going to go crazy.
But worldwide, where are they all going then? 4,500 here, so almost half. Where are the most of them? Japan? What about China?
We're just launching in Europe now. Canada, we're getting ready to launch in a couple of months, and then we're going to eventually get ourselves to China.
The Chinese say, hey, you got to make them here, you got to give us all your technology. What's Nissan going to do about that?
We have a long-term relationship, as you know, in China, and we just made a major announcement about the investments into that country. So we have a good partner, and we've already announced that electric vehicles are going.
But you're not afraid of having to turn over your technology?
A little out of my sandbox, so I'll stay away from that one.
Okay. And you mentioned all these incentives and everything like that. Isn't the California incentive about $5,000 for EVs about to run out?
It ran out.
Oh, it ran out. So,
yeah.
I mean, all these incentives are going to run out pretty quick, right? All these states and cities are broke.
Well, they're budget pressures, no question. I mean, California's number is going to drop down to 2,500, so not zero, but 2,500, so that's good. And as we go state by state, region by region, there are different levels of incentives, different things happening. I mean, our job is to get ready for a time when incentives go away. And the only way you do that, you know the business, you got to do it through scale. You got to
get costs
down. That's not the only way. You can't do 5,000 of these and stop and get cost out of it.
Is Nissan still on track in terms of the schedule of building LEAFs and batteries in the U.S.? I thought there was a delay there or something.
Well, as you look through, when the earthquake happened, you know, there was training going on. There were engineers flying to Japan. They were going to class. El Pama was the mother plant, and so they were going through all their testing and training. So we lost a little time in the schedule, but we're on track to be ready to go at the end of 2012.
Good. We got to talk more about this, but right now we've got to take another break. And Ben, why don't we thank our friends at Hyundai? With gas prices where they are these days, if you're after fuel efficiency, you need to check out the Hyundai Sonata. There's 3 different models to choose from. The 2.4-liter GDI, which delivers a segment-leading 35 miles per gallon. Then there's the 2-liter turbo, which offers 274 horsepower, yet delivers 33 miles per gallon. And the brand new hybrid that provides a combined 37 miles per gallon. And you can learn a lot more about each one at HyundaiSonata.com.
I assume Nissan's going to be added to our roster of sponsors any day now, don't
Boy, that is a
Wait, I heard the door lock back here. I
idea.
can't get out. Wait a minute.
I wanted to ask you, as a product planner, what do you think of the new Toyota Subaru Scion FRS? Is that what it's called? FRS?
Not FRS, isn't it the FT? Andrew, do you know what's that?
No, T's not in it
No?
anymore.
The Subaru Toyota Scion car?
Scion IQ?
No.
No, it's the FRS. Well, anyway, it's that.
Yeah, you might be right there.
That sports car. That must intrigue you, that whole program, right?
I mean, you're seeing collaboration in all segments, and
I mean the package.
yeah, the package, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, that means you're working on something, aren't you?
Oh, you've been around a long time.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
The other word we use a lot is study.
I like the package. I think the package is great, by the way, because I think the S2000 Honda was one of my favorite cars, and I think this car might be the next of that ilk, and I'm sure your company's eyeing it carefully.
We have a long history of doing pretty good sports cars.
Yes.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Absolutely. So what else are you working on besides the Leaf? You mentioned small cars. You're just launching the new Versa.
Yeah, we're just launching the Versa sedan. It actually gets to dealerships next month. So really happy with that car. Pretty easy car to understand. Very affordable, great value, 33 miles a gallon combined on the highways, great fuel economy, and huge interior
And you're
package.
going with the sedan first this time.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, explain that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, how it goes through manufacturing.
But
too.
is that just a U.S. market phenomena that you would go with a sedan here? Wouldn't the rest of the world want a hatchback?
Actually, the car launched first in China 6 months ago as a sedan.
Oh, really?
So it's
But China, in a lot of ways, is kind of similar to the U.S. market.
very, very similar. And back to your hatchback question, a little different with Versa. If you looked at the industry, sedans usually outsell hatches when they're in the same segment together. We were with the Versa. We were almost, at one point, we were 70% hatch, 30% sedan.
Why do you think that was?
Personal opinion.
Yeah,
I like the hatch.
yeah.
The hatch.
No.
I like the hatch design. The hatch was very European and is very utility. Great interior package, good gas mileage. Crash test ratings were great. Sedan was never bad, but it just didn't have some of the same kind of emotional draw as the hatchback. So we were 70-30, 60-40. It was starting to get kind of a little closer in line, but everybody else was doing the other. So, and we lead the segment. It's 30. We own 30% of the market. It's the best segment we do in the industry. So for us, it's like, okay, hang on to the hatch and let's get the sedan up. So let's do that one first.
And that was that's why you did it that way, is to really boost up sedan.
Hit the sedans, take advantage of what really is kind of the natural market demand there, with a more competitive kind of sedan offering.
Mm-hmm. Where do you produce that car?
Mexico.
Mexico.
Yeah. Oh, we produce it a lot of places, but for North America, we source out of Mexico.
We had studied Nissan quite a bit in the past, and the flexibility of your manufacturing system was a major piece of your advantage in some cases, because you can do a model mix, like a lot of facilities can't do that.
So when does the new car hit dealers?
Next month. Well, really in about a couple weeks, August.
CVT? Nissan, there's a CVT in the Versa. Nissan seems to be the only company seriously committed to CVTs, and you guys keep developing them, and
and they keep getting better and better.
They keep getting better. They drive more and more natural, if you will, compared to a regular step gear automatic. And why is it that only Nissan seems to be committed to making the CVT work? I mean, Audi's got a version too, but they don't seem to be that serious about it anymore.
Well, we were looking for that combination of drive characteristic. The consumers, it's either a manual or automatic. I mean, you tell them a CVT, most people don't know. So what they report report back as, I like the drive feel smooth, I don't feel any shift shock, I like that. For us, it was all about getting efficiencies, fuel economy, and improvements there. And if you just do the logic with a CVT, you're always at the best ratio. It's an infinite amount of ratios. It's not 6 of them or 4 of them or 5 of them or even 8 of them. It's infinite. So the engine and transmission are always working as efficiently as it can. So it just makes sense.
Yeah, except I had the Maxima Performance Edition, and that's such a sweet engine, and it just seemed like it was disappointing to me. It didn't feel like it should in that car.
Did you have one with a DS mode?
Yes.
Yeah, still didn't like it. See, I like DS. I like DS.
Well, you know, Nissan has programmed in shift points. I mean, haven't you? So, I mean, it can feel more like a step gear automatic.
You can if you like that. So, I mean, some people like the feel of that
The double clutch.
The double, that kind of feel.
I've got the double clutch in the S4, and I like it, especially going on an entrance ramp and just flooring it. I don't even bother with the paddles. I just let it snap the shifts off.
Yeah.
And I miss that in the Maxima, but because I love that engine so much.
Right.
It's one of the engines in the
One of the best
business.
engines in the business.
The
ever. And it's just seemed, oh man, I should have had a 6-speed in it or something, man.
Well, even on the Versa, I mean, the CVT that went into the Versa, engineers were faced with a problem. To get that final drive, to get maximum fuel economy, that last drive pulley had to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Pretty soon they just couldn't package it anymore. It wouldn't fit. So we put a planetary gear in for the final drive that seamlessly kind of works. Torque converter happens, and we have a larger final drive than a 7-step AT. Nice engineering solution. I give the guys a lot. They were faced with this problem, and they scratched their head a little bit. So how do we solve this? It doesn't fit anymore. Well, we'll just take that final gear and attach it, and it's a nice combination.
Of course, everybody else that's gone with CVTs have had horrific warranty problems with them. They haven't lasted. How's it doing for Nissan? It must be doing good, or you wouldn't.
Yeah, we wouldn't
still be sticking
exactly.
them in cars.
Yes, we're doing great. Yeah, no problems.
Going back to the LEAF a bit, I'm sure you're getting a lot of customer feedback on it now.
Yeah.
Let's talk range anxiety, because that seems to be one of the big issues vis-a-vis electrics. What kind of feedback are you getting about
They don't have, I got a news flash, they don't have it.
Really?
It's amazing. It's those who don't worry about it, those who have, don't worry about it at all. I mean, we've got over 4,500 owners now. They love to tell us every morning in my emails, every morning it's, Mr. Perry, okay, Mark. They tell me their experiences on the website, everywhere else. They drive less than 60 miles a day. Their average trip length is 7 miles between power on, power off. So they may do 3 or 4 of those during the day, power on, to work, back, lunch, back, that kind of thing, 7 miles. Average charge every night, 2 to 3 hours. So that tells you
they're not using a whole lot.
They're not using a lot of their battery. And we always had that discussion in the media about, is this your primary car, your first car, your only car, all of that. People are describing it now as their primary car. I may have 2 or 3 to choose from, but that in the household fleet, that's the one that's getting used the most. So it's again, these are early adopters who did their homework and knew what they were buying, and it fit their needs. It doesn't fit everybody's needs.
Right, but
No
are
question.
you learning things that might broaden the appeal of the car? Are you learning things of how to market it differently, and if so, what?
The number one reason is a very rational dollars and cents reason. I'm saving money doing this. Well, however they define saving money. Could be saving time because of HOV lane access. It could just be the dollars and cents. I mean, we've got some markets now where the off-peak electric charge is 2 cents a kilowatt hour.
Where's that?
2 cents.
Where, no.
It's going to be in Virginia when we launch. So that 2 cents there. Off-peak rates in some areas in Washington are that low.
That's pretty cheap.
It's really cheap. So you look at that, and they're just saving tons of money. But then they got the next group that's the balance of trade, foreign oil, all that kind of stuff. And then of course, you have the ones that are it's environmentally friendly and all of that. But very much so a rational decision. A rational decision.
So again, are you going to tweak your marketing messages? Are you tweaking ways of how you sell the car at the dealership to those who are not early adopters?
I mean, easiest for us to communicate is no gas. All right, that's very simple. I mean, we're not, it's not this, it's not that. It's really simple. No gas, no oil, never, zero, no tailpipe. Pretty easy to understand. But for us, it's still really what we see the next thing is the ability to do some DC fast charging. More and more areas now are rolling out. Houston, Dallas.
Level 3 chargers.
Level 3 chargers.
But doesn't that
Chicago.
degrade the battery over time?
It's set up, our vehicle, battery management system, and the pack and the charger are all set up to do this. So it protects itself. You can't take too much charge. If it ever warms up, it'll slow down charging. So there's no, 3 times a day, 10 years worth, you're okay. No problems.
You expect these batteries will last 10 years?
Yeah, we got an 8-year, 100,000-mile warranty on it, and then even that way, I use the analogy, it's got life after, 2 or 3 lives after the car. You're starting to see stuff in the media now. All of us are trying to figure this out of secondary use. We're putting a solar charging array both at Smyrna and our headquarters. The poor guy's been working in 100-degree heat for the last 3 weeks. I feel bad for him. But we're going to use a battery field underneath to capture the solar energy. It's going to be our automotive-grade batteries in the ground, capturing that solar energy and pushing it back out. We're not going to be able to charge all the cars with the solar, but it's going to help. It's going to help. Lots of applications.
Hey, look, let's take another commercial break here, and then we'll come back and do rapid fire and get all these questions from our audience. But Ben, let's thank our friends at Chevrolet. The Chevrolet Cruze is the car that is taking the world by storm. And a key reason is all the equipment that it offers. A driver information center, a USB port, ambient LED backlighting on the dashboard, remote start with a MyLink app, 2 accessory power outlets, one in front and one in the back for the rear passengers, OnStart, turn-by-turn directions, free for the first 6 months. Whew, there's just too much to list here. And you can check it all out at Chevrolet.com/Cruze. Okay, Ben, it's time for rapid fire. Let's bring it up here. Okay, Mark, the first goes to you. It's a comment from Autoline fan. He says, I'm a Nissan LEAF owner and paid $700 for a quick charge port that I cannot take advantage of. What is Nissan doing to push the deployment? I'm in Southern California where thousands of LEAFs have been sold and not a single level 3 EV SE to be found.
Yet. They're coming through. You have to go through UL certification for the actual box. So AeroVironment's got the first one through. There's about 3 more in the queue. Once they get UL certified, they're going in the ground. There's going to be 1,000 of them in California. So patience, they're coming.
Okay. Jerry Hightower says, what's the future of the Nissan Frontier?
It's going to be there.
Glennie says, what's the Nissan Juke doing in sales? And does it require premium fuel with the turbo?
Premium fuel is recommended, not required. So you do get additional performance if you do use 93, for sure. Juke's doing great.
It's selling very well.
It really is.
It's a good-looking vehicle.
Really fun to drive.
I like it.
I do too. Goggles Pisano, question for the Nissan guy. Why did the Maxima and the Sentra SER have to be saddled with that CVT?
Wait a minute, that's Peter putting the question in.
I thought they were supposed to be sporty vehicle.
The check's in the mail, guy.
Boy, hang it up.
Mitch says, BMW gathered information about EVs from their minis, e-minis. Does Nissan have a similar project? And he says, P.S., loving our Versa.
Oh, great, thank you. Yes, we have an online panel that we communicate with almost monthly. And it's really amazing. Anytime we do a survey, you expect a 10% response rate. We have to shut it off because the emails come flooding in and people respond because they want to tell us. And we're taking all the feedback really seriously.
Cool. DC AutoGate says, and thanks for being with us here, DC. What's Nissan doing to promote investment in charging infrastructure? And what feedback are you getting from early adopters?
We've been working for 3 years to get individual states, cities, municipalities ready for this, doing charging infrastructure. So from an investment standpoint, our investment's in the car. Our work has been state by state, city by city, countless meetings to get this charging infrastructure rolled out. And it's rolling out. There's going to be almost every week there's another announcement. We're up to 15,000 public charging stations in the ground by this time next year.
Hey, you know, an aside here, I met the guy who's in charge of all installations of public EV charging stations in France.
In France, okay.
He says nobody uses them.
Ooh, that's
Said,
different drive pattern.
He told me they are 100% empty.
Well, just go to Seattle, go to LA, go to San Diego. They're being used.
Okay.
They're being used.
Comment from Ed Witt. He said, could Mark Perry comment on the current status of the Nissan S-Flow EV? And do you intend to build an EV sports car? You never heard that question
No,
before.
never heard that. What would I say earlier? Interesting idea.
There's a school you guys go.
Blame Brockman.
Right Knight, to the Nissan dude, why'd they kill the rear drive 240SX replacement plans? And will the Toyota Subaru model coming, with the Toyota Subaru model coming, they need it?
Yeah, well, we kind of
talked about that. But what about the rear drive 240SX?
I mean, rear drive sports cars, obviously, we got a pretty nice one in the Z. I mean, so that one's kind of there. We're always looking, you know, about what comes next. So,
of course, the Z is a little bit more highly priced than what a 240SX
was at that time. I don't know what a 240 would be today.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, we've got some phone calls coming in, Ben. I see. Let's bring the first one in.
Hey, John, Dan from Durham. I just have a question, and I think I'll throw it to both you and Peter. What is the real inside skinny on the Alfa Romeo 169? It seems I've been hearing about it forever, and they keep pushing back the production date. Is this thing for real, or is it nothing but vaporware? It seems like it would be the perfect halo car for the Alfa Romeo brand here in America, but, you know, somebody has to give it the green light sooner or later, or just go ahead and cut it off. This is Dan Smith. Bye.
Thanks, Dan.
You know, Sergio's bullish on bringing Alpha here, but it's a tall order.
Very tall.
It's a tall order. I don't care how good the products are. Are they really prepared to spend $500 million to relaunch Alpha in this country? Because, make no mistake, it's more than a typical $125 million product launch. People don't know what Alpha is.
On top of that, look how slow the Fiat 500's been rolling out. You know, they ran into a bunch of problems trying to get their dealer network lined up, and they'll iron that out. But I think they're probably thinking, hey, let's fight one war at a time. First, let's get Fiat established, then we'll talk about doing it all.
I think Sergio's mistake was talking too much about Alpha early on.
Yeah.
That's a mistake, you know. Get your stuff going and then start thinking about Alpha. And so now it's what, 2014?
I think that's right.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
Ben, let's bring in another phone call here.
Hey guys, great show. Jonathan out in Old Japan.
All right,
Just
Jonathan.
A quick question. Do you think before the 52 mile per gallon regulation goes into effect, there'll be an epiphany from the government saying that our manufacturers can't meet this in a manner that's financially possible for the American public to continue to buy cars, and they'll redirect the standard lower? Just my 2 cents. I think they will. Have a nice day.
Well, they have that evaluation.
Yeah.
Well, it's 54.5, right?
Yeah.
And that's to 2025. And there's the midpoint review before you get there.
Right.
And the speculation clearly would be that at the midpoint review, it's not going to go up, it's going to come down.
Yeah.
But that is the key point, is that midpoint review. And it's not all, it's also.
You think it'll come down at that point, Jay?
There's a high, I would, if I had to bet money on coming down, that's the direction I would bet it's going to go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Well, I do too, but I have totally contrarian views about the availability and price of oil and what it's going to be. I don't think it's.
You know, one of the
peak oil thing I don't buy
the
anymore.
variable that we haven't talked much about, though, is the price of gas.
Right.
You know, if price of gas is $3.50 today, if come 2020 it's $7, $8, $9 a gallon.
Well, that's a different.
The economy is altogether different.
Right.
Right.
That's right. But if it's still $3.50, you know, just with inflation, we'll say, geez, gas is only $3.50 a gallon. That's a bargain.
It's pretty hard to pay extra money for hybrid vehicles, as you were saying.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Ben, let's bring in another phone call here.
Hey, John, Rick from San Diego. I was wondering if Nissan is seeing a boost in sales to Pontiac owners. I think out here, at least, the Pontiac owners and Nissan owners seem to be pretty common, you know, cross sales. So, any comments? Thanks.
Oh, interesting, Mark. You see that?
Yeah, I haven't looked. I mean, I understand this point. I mean, both kind of a sports car kind of heritage, performance brands themselves. So I honestly don't. I'll go back and look.
It'd be interesting to look because, you know, we know that GM has lost more than half the prior brands that the owners of the brands that it dropped. You know, when a car company kills a brand, the customers scatter in all directions. They don't say, oh, I'm going to buy another GM vehicle.
No. And you know, it's a mature market, so anybody who's gaining share, we're kind of just stealing it from one another. It's not like the water level's going up anymore. We're just kind of battling amongst ourselves. So, you know, fortunately, we've been gaining share along, so we're taking it from somebody. Taking it from somebody.
George from Brooklyn wants to know, whatever happened to the Nissan Sentra hybrid Carlos Ghosn promised back in 2008?
I don't remember him promising a Sentra hybrid.
Okay. I don't either.
Yeah.
And Mike DeWhite says, again for you, Mark, what's the plan for the upcoming Sentra and Versa HB?
Hatchback. 2012, the hatchback carries over. Of course, there's future for the Versa hatchback, a new model on the way. Again, as you look at our product cadence, we're right now beginning all the kind of major sedan launches. So yeah, my life is getting pretty busy right now, and you know, we're just spooling up, ready to go. So a lot of vehicle launches. I think you heard our announcement. A new every 6 weeks, there's a new car launch globally.
I know.
So Nissan is
staggering.
It's just everywhere in the company where everybody is working night and day. Flat out.
Yeah. Comment from guest. He says, Peter, comment on those good TV commercials that Chevy has about new mothers coming with their little bundles in a Chevrolet. I think they're great, he says.
They are good. They're not new, though. They were first done around the Super Bowl. And they're running them again. And they are good. Very good.
I haven't seen those.
Me either.
Ben, I think we got another phoner here.
Hi, I have a question for your Nissan guest. I was just wondering, when you do launch the hatch version of your Sonata compact, are you going to name it the Versa or something else? Because I noticed that in China, you have already released a new Taida, and it looks totally different than the Versa sedan, which you call the Sunny there, and it rides on a different platform even. So, thank you. Bye.
Oh, you've been doing your homework.
We have a very astute audience.
Very astute. Versus Sunny Tita, I mean, we got names, you know, different names, different markets globally for that. I think his direct question was, what you saw in China going to be the new hatchback for the U.S.? No.
And I think his question too was, are you going to call the hatchback something different?
As I think Peter mentioned, it's awful expensive to change names. Right. So you want to kind of if it's a good name and it has no baggage, and with Versa it's got great reputation, so we're going to keep it.
Peter, what's it cost to establish a name in a marketplace?
Well, you know, the rule of thumb used to be $125 million to launch a nameplate. Right. I think it's more now. And especially if you have, in Alpha's case, if you have a demographic that remembers the graduate, that's not who you're going to have to attract. And so you're basically starting from scratch. No one knows in the demographic you're targeting what Alfa Romeo is.
Right.
So I immediately double that 125.
Wow. Well. That's a lot of advertising.
Yeah, but it also doesn't include, okay, what are you going to do about dealers? And what are you going to do about graphics? And are they standalones? And how are you going to handle that? I mean, it's a huge, huge number.
Speaking of spending a lot of money on a brand, Phil in Burlington, Ontario says, I understand that the first Saab 9-4s are being delivered and sold as we speak. They're Mexican-made, GM supplied, based on the Cadillac SRX. What's going to happen to the thousands of these cars in the pipeline if Saab folds? Would GM sell them as their own? What's your Autoline insight on that?
I don't know.
No, I would say GM would not sell them. Look, the minute they roll off the assembly line, they belong to Saab. GM's already been paid for them at that point. All I would say is, whatever gets built gets sold. As I'm fond of saying, at the end of the year, they don't disassemble them and send the parts back to the suppliers. They get sold. And they may not make a profit for the company or the dealer, but they will get sold.
And Saab is still hanging by a thread, right?
Very much so. In fact, they've stopped paying their
salary,
employees again.
Yeah, the salary employees now,
right.
too.
It's it's excruciating to watch this. It really is. Ben, do we have another phoner there?
Nope.
No.
Surprise!
Okay, here's a question that came in online for Jay Barron. He says, what about the practicality of the Halo IPT system that uses a cable in the roadway to inductively provide electrical power to moving vehicles? Right. Are you familiar with that, Jay?
Well, we've heard of that proposed. I've never seen anybody take it to the point of really seriously designing it and doing the economics on it. We sort of chuckle sometimes. We get a lot of perpetual motion proposals that just don't fly. We had one where a guy wanted to put some kind of a wind turbine on top of the car to power the batteries, and that should go forever. You get these things sometimes, and so people that don't necessarily have engineering and economics, and so so anyway, I think the answer to the question is, I actually had that particular idea was sent in to me from a fellow from NASA. Reckon, generally you would expect a good engineer, but when you start tying in the economics and the look at all the things around electric vehicles with just the recharging challenge that's brought on with it. Now look at something like this. How do you begin to institute that kind of a technology? It's mind-boggling. And then you're only going to connect 2 points, and then once you get off the highway, you got to have another powertrain to take you from there to the next location. So anyway, it's every aspect of which you look at this is just a big challenge.
Mark, you must get this all the time. Why not just power the roadway and then you don't even have to worry about batteries?
Well, what they're talking about is inductive charging, which exists and technically feasible today. And if you think way back to the electric vehicle we had at the end of the 90s, we were using inductive charging then. It was a paddle that radio waves transferred and got the energy to the battery. It's not as efficient right now. And then all the things that were, the infrastructure, you think that's hard, putting a charging station on a wall. Well, now you start laying cable in trenches and digging up concrete, and then just the safety thing. You're going to fry every mouse in your garage.
Roads as it is.
I know, yeah. So it's good. There's some technical hurdles still to come.
I know that GM, part of their exhibit in the World's Fair in New York in '64, they had that. As one of their visions for the urban areas of the future.
Absolutely.
And I know they've been dabbling, they've been playing with that for a long time.
Well, there was something I caught a news article last 24 hours about this idea of a race series that was kind of like real live slot cars doing basically that, just following around with cables under the ground. It's like, okay.
And here's another question from Eric, and I'm sure you get this all the time too, Mark. What happens when everyone has a plug-in and there's a heat wave? He says the grid can hardly support current stresses.
That's 4 o'clock in the afternoon at 100 degrees. If that's when a million vehicles get plugged in, yeah, that's going to be a problem. The good news is that's not what happens. People drive the cars during the day with 100 miles of range. You don't really need to plug in during the day, just maybe to top off. So you plug in overnight, there's plenty of excess generating capacity.
And what about this idea of if you sign up with the electric utility that they might even pull electricity out of your battery in peak loads and pay you a premium for that, and then you can recharge later at a lower price even. Is that going to happen? Does that make sense, do you think?
That's another one of those that on paper it sounds good. The economics, you can kind of see that it works. Solar panels on roofs are doing that today. 5 to 10 years from now, maybe. What I think we'll see first is vehicle to home. So your vehicle turns into, a portable generator can maybe power 1 appliance, 2 appliances, but a Leaf could pretty much power the house. So maybe that's where we go first, vehicle to home, and then maybe we'll do this other thing.
How long could a Leaf power a home for?
A little over 2 days.
Really?
A little over 2 days.
That's not too bad. That would get you through a lot of emergencies.
Yeah, I mean, people say, "Oh, I get the power generator thing, keep it full of gas, and I can." But you're only running a couple appliances. You're not running your house. Well, you could run your house.
Well, that's the point that I make. Is that if I turned on everything in my house, the air conditioning, the furnace, the oven, everything, I think it would use 7 or 8 kilowatts, something like that. And
we have 24 on board.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, people don't have no clue how much energy it takes to take, the mass of an automobile and say accelerate it up to 70 miles an hour.
Right. And
that
keep it
takes
there.
an enormous amount of power.
Yeah.
And keep it there, right? Hey, look, this is probably a good time for us to wrap up, but Jay Barron, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Good luck at the conference. I'll be up there all week
terrific.
too, so I'll be sending reports back for our daily news show.
Okay.
Mark Perry, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This is really good. And Peter, always great having you.
It's been real again.
As it always is. Hey, a shout out to the audience there. We've got some improvements coming to our website, and we need to make sure that everything works. Anybody out there listening who works behind a corporate firewall, we would love to get some volunteers to click on links and stuff like that and see if our video plays through that smoothly. If you'd like to help us out on that, drop us an email, would you? Send it to viewermail@autolinedetroit.tv. Also, don't forget, next Tuesday night, we're going to be doing Open Line. And you can get that at bit.ly/openpodcast. August 2nd, we're going to have Nick Richards from Buick there. It starts at 8 p.m., so check that out at bit.ly/openpodcast. Don't forget that you can friend us at Facebook at facebook.com/AutolineDetroit. Follow us at twitter.com/Autoline. And always, thou must read the Autoextremist column at autoextremist.com. And don't forget, you can win $100 listening to everything through Stitcher. Go check that out too. Thanks for being with us, folks. It's been great.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone, passion for excellence. Chevrolet, the all-new Chevrolet Cruze. Get used to more. And by Hyundai. Experience the 2011 Hyundai Sonata today at HyundaiSonata.com.
Don't forget Twitter at Autoextremist.
Oh, that's right.
And thanks to AJ Morning in Maryland, we have a Facebook page for Autoextremist.
Cool.
I'm not an active participant. I sort of glance at it now and then. I do tweet on occasion.
I'm sure social media is critically important for the Leaf.
Yes.
Critically important.
Tweets, planks, updates, Facebook, yes, lots.
We started using Twitter last year at Traverse City. It was the first time we did it. So, but it was interesting. There's a number of people in the audience sort of tweeting back and forth. So
the fun thing about conferences, I don't care what the industry, they're all the same. It's just like, oh, we got this meeting here, we got that, and then everyone's like, yeah, but what time's cocktail hour?
Yeah.
Well, that's where the real networking gets done. You start out with it. That's
right.
That's why you go.
Well, and so a lot of discussion. So if there's a good speaker or somebody's raised a good topic, that's where the discussion about it gets hashed out too. So yeah, it is the best part of the conference. It really is.
And the good ones leave enough time for it.
That's right.
Yeah, instead of having 8 o'clock to 7 o'clock at night, boom, 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 they chunk out.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
This is going to be social time.
Well, because conferences that do that, and they end up having lightly attended stuff, and it's just like
Or then you have a speaker talking to 5 people because everybody's out in the hallway. doing it on their own.
The conferences that don't network, that don't do that, are engineering or technical conferences, because it's science or something. But the business conferences, you've got to have interaction networking.
You do, but I would even say all conferences need that. It's how do you get to know who's in your field? And in a lot of these conferences, people are traveling in many cases from all over the world. It's a great opportunity to meet other people.
How else could you ever interact?
Right.
I spoke at a precious metals industry conference 2 years ago, and I had to do it was like a 55-minute speech.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
That's a lot of content.
That was a lot of content, but they were like partying fools. The night before, I expected like people sleeping in the audience, but it was a good, well-attended event. But it just said, well, these conferences are all the same.
That's interesting. Precious metals, huh? What you talk about, catalytic converters?
Well, I talked about where I thought the precious metals were going and the future of the business and how some countries are going to hoard them and use them as weapons.
Hey, speaking of that, you guys got to be concerned about this China chopping off its, or chopping way back on its export of rare earths.
I mean, a lot of research going on.
Yeah.
A lot of
research. Aren't they also starting up California?
There is a mine there.
Yeah,
right.
There's a mine there.
And
Nevada's got some lithium. So there was a study on lithium that came out today that said we were good for a century.
But it's environmentally unfriendly to mine it, which is part of the problem. I think that's why they closed
for lithium. That's right. That's why it closed in California. Although I know the Japanese have just made some massive discovery on the ocean floor of like massive amounts of rare earth metals.
It's kind of your peak oil theory, huh?
Well, the whole peak oil thing never anticipated Brazil's massive discovery. Right. Another Saudi Arabia. Yeah. It never anticipated hydraulic fracturing or fracking, which has totally changed the game in this country already in natural gas.
Is Brazil, are they capable of delivering or getting at it and delivering it?
Well, unfortunately it seems, and I'm no energy expert at all, but Petrobras, which is the national oil company there, is now greatly vertically integrating. They're buying their own ships, they're getting into their own refineries, they're getting into their own drilling equipment, and other oil experts are going, this is nuts. Contract that out, let's get going. And so who knows? It may come slower, but Brazil sees this as
I think it's
as a ticket to riches.
As big as Saudi Arabia.
That's what I've read. That it potentially is as big as Saudi Arabia. Not as easy to get at, but I keep saying if the oil's there, I bet we the people on planet Earth will use it. I just bet we do. So I'm thinking there's going to be, yes, China's oil consumption is rapidly increasing. So is India's.
India.
I still think there's plenty of oil. That's my opinion. And like I said, I'm not an oil expert. But, I looked at the Department of Energy publishes a chart that goes all the way back to 1919, and it tracks the price of gasoline in this country on an inflation-adjusted basis. And it blips up in World War I, and it blips up in World War II, and after that, it always comes down. I mean, for 100 years, it always comes down. And I'm thinking it's going to come down again on an inflation-adjusted basis.
It's competitively priced.
Right. Well, hey, guys. This was good.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was really good.
Thank you, John. And Peter.
Yeah.
Always the pleasure.
Oh, yes.